You can start to talk.
Okay. Good evening and welcome to Congressman Eric Swalwell's live telephone town hall. My name is Allison and I'm a member of Congressman Swalwell's staff. I will be your host for tonight's telephone town hall meeting. Thank you for joining us. We hope you find this call useful and informative. In a moment, Congressman Swalwell will join us with some opening remarks. Now, I'll explain the format for tonight's call. If you would like to ask a question this evening, just press 0 on your phone and one of our staff members will assist you. The telephone town hall provides Congressman Swalwell with another means to communicate with constituents so we can better serve you. We'd like to get through as many questions as possible. Therefore, we must limit all callers to only one question. If your question is chosen, your name will be called and you will be asked to repeat your question for Congressman Swalwell. You're on a live question and answer session with Congressman Eric Swalwell, and in a few minutes you will have the opportunity to speak to him directly. Remember, if you would like to ask a question, press 0 on your telephone keypad. You will then be transferred to one of our staff members who will take your name and your question. You can also press 0 if you would like to simply leave a comment or if you have an issue that you need help with. We hope you enjoyed this telephone town hall. I will now turn it over to Congressman Eric Swalwell for some opening remarks. And please remember to press 0 on your telephone keypad if you would like to ask a question.
Hello, I'm Eric Swalwell, and I have the honor of representing you in the United States Congress. And welcome to my telephone town hall this evening. Tonight I'll be answering your questions about the issues most important to you, like creating jobs, growing the economy, ensuring our veterans receive the benefits they care and earned, and anything else that may be on your mind. My most important job as your member of Congress is to listen to you at home in the East Bay and work for you on your behalf in Washington, D.C. These forums provide an opportunity for me to hear from you and learn how I and my staff can better serve you. Please remember that if you'd like to ask a question, all you have to do is press 0. You may have heard in the news about the current unstable situation in Iraq. I want to assure you that I do not believe that we should send any U.S. troops to Iraq at this point in time. I believe that we must be mindful of what has happened over the last 11 years in Iraq, and that it would be foolish to enter into another military situation in Iraq, a conflict that has taken place over the last 1,300 years and has seen sectarian violence after sectarian violence without a United States military solution. I believe that a diplomatic international solution is most appropriate, and a political solution in Iraq with the moderate Sunni and moderate Shiite leaders coming together to provide peace for the Iraqi people. America cannot be the only one to intervene again militarily, and we are paying the price today for bad decisions that were made back in 2003, whether it's the instability in the region or our veterans who were sent over there were injured or wounded and are not being cared for today here at home. Please remember, if you'd like to ask a question about Iraq or any issue, all you have to do is press 0. When our veterans come home from conflicts like in Iraq, we must serve them as well as they've served us. That's why I was outraged to learn about the scheduling scandals at the VA hospitals around the country. Last month, I visited the VA facility in Livermore and was assured that while long wait times and access issues are occurring at VA centers across the country, this isn't the case in the Bay Area. Well, I believe deeply that I must do everything I can to verify that this is actually true. And so I will continue to reach out to my constituents, whether it's the casework we have or visiting the facilities, to make sure our veterans at our VA hospitals are being taken care of. Recently, an audit of VA hospitals found that the VA Medical Center in Livermore requires further review regarding its scheduling practices. Upon hearing this news, I called the acting director of the VA Medical Center in Livermore to learn more. The need for the Livermore VA further review was triggered by an employee asking and expressing concerns about how staff are trained and how patients are scheduled for their care. This review is a first step and preliminary, but it raises further questions about the care our veterans are receiving, and I will continue to investigate this and encourage you to let me and our office know if you know of any veterans who are having access to care issues at our local VA hospital. Please remember that if you'd like to ask a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your phone to reach a member of my staff. These are just a few examples of the issues I'm fighting for in Congress on behalf of the people in the East Bay. I also want to add that my office can assist with many federal issues like Social Security, Medicare, and veterans benefits. Since I was sworn into office in January 2013, My office has returned over $1 million to constituents who were overpaying the government or not receiving the benefits they earned. So that's $1 million back to constituents in benefits that were owed or that the government paid back to constituents, whether it was IRS refunds, Social Security, or Medicare. If you need help with the federal agency, please call my Pleasanton office at 925-460-5100. Lastly, to stay up to date with my work in Congress and around the East Bay, please follow me on Twitter at Rep Swalwell and join me on Facebook at facebook.com/Congressman Eric Swalwell. That's at REPSWALWELL. Or you can press 7 on your telephone to receive email updates from me about the latest in Congress. Also, other issues affecting our local economy include ensuring that we raise our minimum wage. Right now, we have a minimum wage below $8, and this is not enough for any family to live on. California's minimum wage is approaching $10, which we know in the East Bay is still not enough. And so I have supported increasing our minimum wage to $10.10. Also, extending unemployment insurance is critical for our Bay Area unemployed economy. These folks, many times by no fault of their own, but who have lost their jobs in this changing economy, are out in the dark without extended unemployment insurance. And so folks who are mid-career right now and have been unemployed trying to get the skills they need, again, right now are out in the dark until Congress extends unemployment insurance. And only by the grace of God go so many of us with our jobs and remain employed. And so I will continue to fight in the Congress to make sure that we have extended unemployment insurance and an opportunity for people to get back up on their feet and back into the workforce. Again, please press 0 to ask a question, and I would be happy to take any questions. And so we are going to go to the line of questions now and take our first question and answer them as they come in.
Great. Thank you very much, Congressman Swalwell. And as he said, as a reminder, you are on a live telephone question and answer session with Congressman Eric Swalwell. If you would like to ask the Congressman a question, just press 0 and you'll be connected to a member of our staff. And I wanted to reiterate what the Congressman said. We can help you with our office can help you with Medicare, Social Security, and other federal issues. Just give us a call at 925-460-5100. Again, that's 925-460-5100. And now we are going to turn it over to our first question. We have Paul from Livermore who has a question. Paul?
Hey, Paul, how you doing?
I'm doing okay. Say, I'm wondering what's to become of that old homestead on Croak Road down below the mighty scar on the valley hillside.
Paul, can you say that again? What's become? Say it again.
What's to become of the old homestead, kind of farmhouse deal, right below the mighty scar on the hillside in, I guess it's East Dublin.
So I know that's right along 580 Croak Road,
yep.
And there when I was on the city council in Dublin, we were studying a plan to connect Dublin and Livermore because, as you know, right now there is no way for you to drive from Dublin directly into Livermore other than through 580. So there is a Dublin Boulevard extension project that would connect Dublin Boulevard to Livermore, and so. I have supported that as a council member, and if the city does have a need for any assistance federally, we're here to act. But I do think that would reduce some of the 580 congestion. I also have supported having BART to Livermore, so that that also will reduce the number of people on the road. And there's going to be a measure on the ballot this November called Measure BB. B as in boy, so Measure BB, which would fund not only BART to Livermore but other local transportation projects. So anything we can do to reduce congestion. I was in Livermore for Father's Day dinner on Sunday, and coming back on 580, it was just an absolute nightmare. And so there has to be a better way for people to get from Dublin to Livermore. And so thank you, Paul, for that question. And if we can follow up anyway, please let us know.
Thank you so much, Paul. And just to piggyback on what the Congressman was saying, our office does work with a lot of local agencies to secure grants. We were proud to announce that the Alameda County Fire Department was awarded a federal grant of $4.1 million to hire and train firefighters. And Congressman Swalwell wrote a letter of support on behalf of the Alameda County firefighters to get this grant. And as a reminder, all of you are on a live question and answer session with Congressman Eric Swalwell. If you would like to ask a question, just press 0 on your telephone keypad. You'll be connected to the member of our staff, and might be able to ask your question to Congressman Swalwell. Now we're going to turn it over to Will. He is from Livermore and has a question about the federal government spending.
Hi, Will. How are you?
Congressman, this is Will Butler. I'm from Livermore.
Thanks for being on the call.
Okay. My question is, what plan or strategy do you have to reduce spending with the federal government? Do you have any plan or strategy to do that? Because what I'm hearing is it's all about spending money. Are you any plan to cut back in anything?
Yes. I voted to reduce the defense budget, for one. We have seen since every major war our country has been involved in over the past 230 years, typically through history, after major conflicts, we have reduced our Department of Defense budget, not continued to balloon them. And right now, after 11 years of war in Afghanistan, actually 12 years of war in Afghanistan, the longest conflict in our history, and 8 years of war in Iraq, that's $2 trillion that we spent in those two conflicts. And we're seeing, especially in Iraq, that we are in a worse position now than we were before we went to Iraq. And so drawing down our defense budget is, I've voted twice now against the National Defense Authorization Act in Congress. But it's not just defense. As a former council member in Dublin, I know that you have to tighten your belt, but also make sure you have revenues coming in. So I'm a part of a bipartisan group that I helped found called the United Solutions Caucus. It's 30 members of Congress, freshman members, so first-term members in the House of Representatives, 15 Republicans, 15 Democrats, and we have a bill that we've introduced called the SAVE Act, S-A-V-E, that has $200 billion worth of cuts over 10 years. And so that is a big chunk of our $1 trillion discretionary budget that we have in the Congress. And so I am doing everything I can, and that budget looks at waste, fraud, abuse, redundancies that we have in federal programs, but also finds new sources of revenues that are out there. And so I am mindful that people expect us to be good stewards of the taxpayer dollar, and looking at any way we can reduce them is important to me.
Thank you very much. And I want to let you know about some upcoming events that our office has. The Congressman frequently hosts Congress on Your Corner events throughout the East Bay, where he'll set up a booth at a grocery store, farmer's market, or coffee shop and meet with constituents. You can find out about all of these upcoming Congress on Your Corner events by visiting the Congressman's Facebook page. That's facebook.com/Congressman Eric Swalwell. Again, that's facebook.com/Congressman Eric Swalwell. And you are on a live telephone town hall with Congressman Eric Swalwell. If you would like to ask a question, all you have to do is press 0 on your telephone keypad. You can also sign up for our e-newsletter and find out more about what's going on in here in Washington, D.C. To sign up for the Congressman's e-newsletter, you can hit 7 on your telephone keypad. And now we're going to turn it over to Patty from Pleasanton, who is a teacher and has a question about her benefits.
Hi, Patty.
Hi, Eric. I'm really happy to talk to you, and thank you again for coming to the Alameda County Science and Engineering Fair to support us.
That was exciting.
Yeah, well, you
those
did a
kids
great
are
job.
doing. Oh, thank you. Well, it's actually quite impressive, the problems they are seeking to tackle.
It is
I was happy to support that.
Well, thank you. My question for you is, as a retired teacher, I'm sure you're aware that teachers who paid into the California State Teachers Retirement System are unable to also collect any Social Security, which they have paid into along the way. We can only collect one or the other. And likewise, we are unable to collect our deceased spouse's Social Security as well. So I was wondering if you are going to address that when you return to.
Yes, and Patty, what you're referring to, just for the sake of the other callers, is the windfall elimination provision of the Social Security Act, and that provision was passed during the early 2000s. And just as you said, in some cases it was somebody who worked, for example, as a nurse and then went into teaching, and their Social Security contribution as a nurse is not allowed to be collected when they retire as a teacher. And so I have supported and signed on to what's called the Social Security Fairness Act, introduced by Congressman Buck McKeon. He's a Republican, but this is a bipartisan issue that he and I and many Republicans and Democrats support, getting rid of this windfall elimination provision. It is not a windfall that somebody paid into Social Security and seeks to collect what they rightfully have earned. And I know a number of teachers in our area count on that or have been penalized by that or by the earnings of their spouses. And so I do support repealing it, and Congressman McKeon is retiring this year from the Congress. But if this issue is not passed, it is my hope that the effort is not retired with Congressman McKeon. And so I or others will continue to work on this issue. And so if he doesn't introduce it, if someone else does not make sure that's passed this year, I will be sure to introduce it next year and carry on what has been a long-standing effort over the last few years to make sure that we reverse this unfortunate bill. So thank you, Patty, for being a teacher, and let us know if you have any specific Social Security issues, and our caseworkers can help.
Thank you, Patty. And I want to let you know that once a month, Congressman Swalwell does a day in your shoes where he learns the job of a constituent in the East Bay. Recently, he helped distribute lunches to children in need in Hayward, worked as a pharmacist, and acted as a crossing guard at a local school. If you have a suggestion for a future In Your Shoes, please email us. You can email us at CA15 District Schedule, that's CA15, numerical 15, District Schedule at mail.house.gov, G-O-V. Now we're going to turn it over to Alexandra, who has a question about college affordability.
Hi, Alexandra.
Hi, thank you, Congressman. I wanted to ask, as I already got my bachelor's and I'm trying to get into college, but looking at interest rates for loans have just been kind of freaking me out. So I was wondering if do you have any ideas to reduce the large interest rates that current student loans have, or loans for future students that they'll have to face?
Yes, and Alexandra, where are you from?
I'm from Discovery Bay.
Oh, okay, great. Well, Alexandra, I have supported the Bipartisan Student Loan Certainty Act, which the President signed last year, which prevented student loan interest rates from doubling. But I've also supported the Student Loan Interest Deduction Act. So this would increase the student loan interest deduction on your income taxes from what is now $2,500 to $5,000. But we are seeing with people like yourself and others across the East Bay that they are just being hammered with the interest rates on student loans, and this is preventing them from either getting the education they need, or once they attain it, from buying a house, saving for college for their own children, and paying the bills. And so that's becoming a real problem in our country. $1 trillion worth of student loan debt is what our country carries right now, which is greater than any other debt that we have as households. And as somebody who just this year, I brought my student loan debt under six figures, but it was in the six figures for a very long time. I appreciate the burden this can be. It's certainly a debt that I welcome because I know the education was important and helped me be the first in my family to go to college. However, we must do more in the Congress. And so that's why I've supported, as I said, the Student Loan Interest Deduction Act, also what's called a Truth in Tuition Act, which would require schools to present its incoming class of students with a multi-year tuition schedule to allow them to better plan. I think right now there are too many universities that are taking too much money from our students and giving them too little in return with degrees that are not helping them get the jobs that they're going to need. And so also making sure that there's more accountability with the schools that are able to accept student loan aid is also important. So appreciate your call, Alexandra, and I'm with you because I'm going to have this student loan debt for a very long time, and I know personally the burden it can be, but the importance that my degree was. So thank you again.
Thank you, Alexandra. As a reminder, if you would like to ask the Congressman a question on this live telephone town hall, please press 0 on your telephone keypad. As Congressman Swalwell also regularly visits local businesses around the East Bay as part of his Congress at Your Company series, he'll tour local companies and then meet with the employees. If you'd like the Congressman to visit your company, please email us. Again, the email is CA15districtschedule, CA15districtschedule at mail.house.gov. Now we're going to turn it over to Merlene, who's from Dublin, has a question about immigration.
Hey, Merlene.
Hi. I have a question about, I was looking on my computer just a few minutes ago, and the governor of Texas was saying that he is getting at least 1,000 illegal immigrants crossing the border, the children and that. Now, what is your opinion? I mean, how do you feel about it? Should they be granted amnesty and stay here, and then the United States, pick up for their college education and everything, where a lot of the citizens here can't even afford to go to college, like the last one, and the student loans that she's had to take out?
Well, Merlene, I appreciate the question, and certainly we are starting to learn that there is this migration north, especially children coming from countries with just awful, awful conditions, no opportunity for economic prosperity, or their own lives are at risk. And so, I certainly understand what draws someone to want to come to America. It's that opportunity, the ability to make right for yourself and move your own family forward. However, our immigration system right now is broken, and that's why I support having comprehensive immigration reform. And so what that means to me is first that the 12 million people who are already here, who have already come into our country undocumented, that we have to have some pathway of certainty and roadmap to citizenship for those individuals. I think it's crazy to think that we are going to somehow remove 12 million people from our country. I think it's better for who we are as a country that has always embraced immigrants, but more importantly, our economy and our public safety, to know who these people are, to have them get in line and not ahead of anybody who's going through the legal channels of immigration, pay a fee and also go through a background check, and then have a certain roadmap to becoming a U.S. citizen. So that's part one. Part two, we have to better secure our border. Certainly, the thousands of people coming across our border right now that we're beginning to learn more and more about as violence increases in South America and Central America, and opportunity also decreases. We have to do something about that. And as to your question, should they be able to just come across our border and then instantly become citizens? We have to get away from a system that would encourage that. We want people to go through legal, transparent means to become immigrants right now. But in a broken system, this is what is going to happen. And this makes us less safe when we don't know who is coming into our country. So that's why I support passing comprehensive immigration reform in the Congress. I also personally believe for our economy, we would be in a much better shape if we didn't educate foreign students in our universities and then turn them away from here when they want to, after they receive their degree, work in our economy. And we are essentially educating the children of other countries and then sending them back with an American education to their country to compete against us and create jobs that will hurt the American worker. So many studies have conclusively shown that immigrants, because they take a risk to come here, will take a risk to start a business here. And when they take a risk to start a business here that succeeds, they create jobs for other Americans. And so I think we have to have a policy that embraces those who are going to go into fields where we don't have enough American workers. And where we do have enough American workers, then we should be mindful of that and not necessarily encourage people or recruit people from across the world to go into those positions. But all of this is said in the context of our immigration system is broken. It must be fixed. And that's why I think passing comprehensive immigration reform in the House of Representatives, as they have already done with nearly 70 Republican and Democratic votes in the Senate, is owed to the American people. But thank you so much, Merlene, for your question. And you can follow me on Facebook or Twitter to follow progress on this important issue.
Thank you so much. And I also want to let you know that even when he's not in California, Congressman Swalwell can be in the California district. He has video conference into city council meetings across the congressional district and several classrooms and meetings to provide federal updates and answer questions. If you would like the congressman to video conference into your next meeting through Skype or Google Hangout, please email us. Again, the email is ca15districtschedule@mail.house.gov. And, of course, you can ask the congressman your question yourself by pressing 0 on your telephone keypad. Now we're going to turn it over to Jean from Pleasanton, who has a question about Iraq.
Hi, Jean. How are you?
I'm fine, and I'm really quite concerned about this situation in Iraq. The same people who seem to want us to go there in the first place with a lot are now insisting that we need to go back, and then we never should have gotten away. And I don't understand that. And how do you feel about it? Are you going to vote against that or what?
Jean, it's as if their memories only go back a year or so, isn't it? I mean, they have not learned anything from going into a rushed and reckless war in 2003 that had no planning for the future and that left Iraq without a security agreement for Iraq's security. And now we're back to a position that is worse than before we went there. And so I deeply believe that Iraq is a greater threat to the United States, a greater threat to its neighbors, and a greater threat to the region today than it was in March 2003, right before we went to war with Iraq, under the false premise that they had weapons of mass destruction. And so, Jean, I do not support a military solution that involves the United States in Iraq. This has been 1,300 years of sectarian violence. What is needed there is a political solution where Sunnis and Shiites come together. That's going to take leadership in Iraq, and I believe the United States' role would be to work with NATO, to work with the United Nations for pushing for an international diplomatic solution in Iraq, a solution similar and under a framework that it could be similar to working together to disarm and dismantle the chemical weapons in Syria, as occurred back in October of 2013. But I do not support and cannot support a military intervention. We know how this ends, and it will end with the United States again being drawn back in as sectarian violence continues to increase. And so the Iraqi people need to stand up for their own country and bring reasonable minds to the table, make hard decisions, as every country has to do, but it cannot involve the young men and women of our armed services going back over there and again giving their lives for the Iraqi people to have peace. But thank you again, Jean, for the question.
Thank you, Jean. As a reminder, if you would like to ask the congressman a question, please just press 0 on your telephone keypad to be connected to a member of our staff. And now we're going to turn to Andrew from Pleasanton, who has a question about the VA in Livermore.
Hi, Eric. How are you?
Hey, Andrew. How are you? I'm good.
I'm doing good. I actually have two questions.
Oh, Andy. Yeah, I saw you 2 nights ago.
Yeah, Monday. How did you make out with your Dublin post office? That's number one. And number two, I'd like to get a status of you of what's going on with the VA at Livermore. What's your take on it? My question is basically, do we have an issue there like they have in Phoenix, Arizona? So
great. Thank you for the questions, Andy. And so first, the easy one, we passed yesterday unanimously in the House of Representatives to name the Dublin Post Office after Dr. Jim Conan. Jim Conan served as an Army colonel. He was an Eagle Scout. He was in the Knights of Columbus. He was on multiple elected boards and commissions in Alameda County. He was also a part of the Dublin Historical Preservation Society. And so a real community servant, and he passed away 2 years ago. And so this post office that, as long as I've been in Dublin and as long as it's been in Dublin, has not had a name, hopefully will now have a name as this bill moves to the Senate. But, I think this also illustrates that in this Congress right now, it's very difficult to get anything big done. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop working to get big things done, or in this case, get small but meaningful things done, like naming our local post office after somebody who honorably served our military. As to the VA, it's a great question, and as soon as I saw the issue in Phoenix, I went and visited the Livermore VA and met with the director. I'd been there a number of times before, but wanted to go back and see if this was something that was unique to Phoenix or these other locations, or if it was rampant across the department. And what I found was that it seems that our local VA so far does not have a long, protracted wait line for the veterans who are there. And I am taking this first from what I've been told by the VA director, but that's not, going to be my only source of information. So I've also looked at our casework, and we've served nearly 300 veterans in individual cases. And our staff informs me, and from my own evaluation of the casework, we haven't had a single case brought to us from a constituent who's a veteran about a wait time issue at the VA. I also polled on Facebook, and we have nearly 8,000 followers on our Facebook to see if there were any wait time issues at the VA. And I did learn a lot about some instances that were positive of people who were praising our local VA hospital, but I also learned about someone who was waiting over a year for specialty care. And it's my belief that no veteran should have to wait that long. 90 days is too long to wait for a specialty care appointment, let alone a year. So we're going to look at those individual cases and see what we can do to help. But the VA, I think, certainly needs reform. It's operating in the 20th century. Veterans, I've learned, cannot even make an appointment online. And so many of these young veterans who've served in Iraq and Afghanistan are coming home and getting into the VA system, and all they've ever known is doing everything online, whether booking airline tickets or talking to their friends. And so if the system is inaccessible for the way they communicate, that's going to be a problem. So bringing the VA into the 21st century is important to me. But going back to Gene's question about Iraq, we are paying the price today, not just on the ground in Iraq of the bad decision to go there. We're paying the price with the veterans who have come home, who were promised that they'd be taken care of in Iraq, but because that war was so complicated and took us all parts of the country, we are serving so many veterans in so many new ways that we have not had to take care of veterans before. 50,000 people were injured in Iraq and Afghanistan over the last 12 years, and thousands more will present injuries, whether it's traumatic brain injuries or PTSD, and will need and require us to care for them. So that's why I'm so hesitant and opposed to military action in Iraq. Aside from the historical lessons there, it's because I know the toll it will take on our veterans, and we're not equipped right now to take care of those who have already served, let alone send a whole new batch into the region for a conflict that needs a local political solution. So thank you, Andy, for the question, and please let me know if there's anything else on your mind that we can help you with.
Thank you, Andy. And don't forget, you can keep up to date with Congressman Swalwell's activities around the district and in Washington, D.C. by following him on Twitter at Rep. Swalwell and on Facebook at facebook.com/Congressman Eric Swalwell. Yes, that is the Congressman really tweeting. And now we're going to turn it over to Dawn, who has a question about energy. Go ahead, Dawn.
Hi, Dawn.
Hey, I sent you a link about hydrogen fuel cell research. It's up actually at Humboldt State.
Where did you send that
California. I sent it, well, I think I tweeted it and I sent it to your message thing on your Facebook page, the Eric one. So
Great. I'll look for that, Dawn. And Dawn, what's your last name?
It's Abdul Albar.
Oh yeah, Dawn. No, you're always posting. Okay, I will go find. Yes. Well, thank you for your constant and continued engagement with us. And is that the SCHOTT Energy Research Center at Humboldt?
Yes. It's
the
SCHOTT
CERC lab.
I used to actually be a student worker up there.
Good.
They have some really good forward-thinking things, and they actually go all over the world and they do science education. So I was just wondering what you thought about hydrogen.
Yes, yeah, they do research and development on hydrogen and fuel cells there. Yes, and so the clean energy economy, Dawn, is something that I think our area has to embrace, harness, and we will lead the way for the rest of the country. I'm on the Science and Technology Committee, and I have worked on that committee to expand our research and development investments in clean energy. So that is hydrogen, that's clean natural gas, that's wind, solar, alternative fuel cells, and we do a lot of that at the Lawrence Livermore and Sandia National Laboratories. So almost 10,000 employees at those two laboratories, which make them the largest employer in the congressional district. But working to support them is the ranking Democrat, the most senior Democrat on the Energy Subcommittee of the Science Committee, is important to me, because I believe this will not only make sure that we leave our children with a cooler, healthier Earth that is one that has lower and fewer carbon emissions, but it also will create a whole new economy around clean energy jobs. And so this will be in the research and development side, it'll be in the installation and maintenance side, and I believe that Americans ultimately do want to move toward cleaner energy solutions, not just because it's good for our Earth and our children, but because I think it ultimately will cost less and create jobs around it. So I'm excited to learn about any creative ideas out there that lower carbon emissions and create jobs. So thank you, Dawn.
Thank you so much, Dawn. And now we are going to turn it over to Paul from Livermore, who has a question about fusion energy, which ties into what the Congressman was just talking about. Paul?
Hey, Paul.
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm good. As usual, people are confusing fusion, which I am working on at NIF, with fission.
Yes.
We have a system of reactors.
Fission creates fusion, right?
We'll worry about fusion in decades from now. What we need to worry about right now is further development of fission reactors. We know how they work. We know we can make them with lithium. We know there are new ways of building this stuff that's super clean, that is buildable in a factory, that you could ship it out someplace instead of spending years on site doing high pressure. Where do you support these? Do you support this?
So, as you know, California has moved away from nuclear fission reactors, and so what I have supported has been cleaner energy solutions, and obviously, as we've seen, the older power plants, they burn fossil fuels, and the nuclear power plants, they depend on the heat that occurs during nuclear fission. And so I do have concerns based on what happened in Japan about the safety around nuclear energy as far as a reactor. Now, I'm excited that you're working on NIF, because NIF, I believe, can be the future of energy and how we provide it to whether it's through utilities or whether there are independent facilities that people can use to go off the grid and receive their own energy. Now, I believe that we are moving more toward wind, solar, and alternative fuel cells. But right now, only about 12% of our energy is provided through renewable sources, and most of this comes through hydraulic dams. And so we have to expand on that pie chart where it comes from, where it comes through renewables. But the work you're doing at NIF, for me, I think can be the future of energy, and that's why I have supported not only NIF's mission to maintain our weapons stockpile, but also the opportunity at NIF to be a new clean energy resource that would also be safe and safer than our nuclear power plants. And so that's my position as far as clean energy, but I think the work at NIF is important, and that's why I've continued to fight against proposed cuts there. And every year we've seen from either the administration, my own president, and members across the aisle have attempted to cut NIF. And fortunately, this year we have been fighting against those cuts, and hopefully when the final budget comes out, NIF will not see another round of cuts. But thank you for your work and your commitment to science and the future of clean energy.
Thank you so much. And now we're just going to turn it over to Michelle from Livermore, who has another question. Michelle?
Hi, Michelle.
Hello. I'm really happy to talk with you this evening, Congressman.
Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, you're welcome. My question has to do with self-driving vehicles, and I think at this time it looks like that's going to be an issue that states will probably handle, but they have the potential to effectively increase road capacity. They probably will save energy in short order, and they more likely, most importantly, probably will make driving much safer. And I wondered if you thought there's any role for the federal government in getting self-driving vehicles on the roadway and in operation more quickly, or do you think that's completely a state issue?
Well, thanks, Michelle, for the question. And I had the opportunity just about 2 months ago to ride in a self-driving vehicle. I drove in one of the Google cars, and I went on the freeway in it too. And of course, it's a little bit harrowing at first for the person sitting in the driver's seat to not use the wheel and to watch how the car reacts to the turns in the road and the other cars around it, and the different obstacles, whether it's a paper bag or a plastic bag flying at you or somebody walking across the street. I mean, it's amazing where technology has taken us and how far we have come since the Model T. And now the prospect of having self-driving cars, I think certainly reflects the innovation economy, which is an economy that I support. And, if we can make self-driving cars safe, then we should make self-driving cars happen. And, I certainly think that, there will be some federal role to play here. We have the National Highway Transportation Safety Administration, referred to as NHTSA. They have rules for the road, and we will have to make sure that self-driving cars adhere to those. But of course, there will be local traffic laws, et cetera, and so there will be a local, state, and federal role to be played. But hopefully, that doesn't get in the way of innovation. And so I look forward to the day where I can sit in my car, multitask, and have not to worry about being distracted, but be able to rely on a self-driving car to get me and my family from place to place, as well as my constituents. It's exciting, and I think the fact that it's happening in our backyard is really demonstrates that our area is an innovation, forward-looking area, and it needs a member of Congress. I believe that is just as forward-looking, and that's the role I've tried to play in my first year and a half in Congress, and look to my constituents to continue to inform me on the technologies that are out there. I'm mindful of what my mom told me when I was a kid, which is, Eric, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in proportion. So please continue to inform me on any issue that's out there, and I will speak for you in Washington. And so I wanted to thank you, Michelle, and all of our callers for participating in my telephone town hall this evening. As we discussed, we have a lot of work to do to keep our country moving forward and to make sure our country is safe in the way that we handle and deal with conflicts abroad. But I remain committed to working for you to grow our economy, keep us safe here at home and internationally, create jobs in the East Bay, and expand our middle class. And all of your questions tonight were excellent. I enjoyed speaking with so many of you, and look forward to hopefully meeting you around the district as I'm home on the weekends. And for those of you who did not get to ask a question, please stay on the line after the call, leave a voicemail with your question, and we will get back to you. I hope this is just the start of our conversation with each other. And again, please do not hesitate to contact my East Bay offices if you have any questions about veteran benefits, Medicare, Social Security, housing, or other federal issues. You can call us in the Tri-Valley at the 925 number, which is 925-460-5100, or in the 510, it's 510-370-3322. I also invite you to visit my website, swalwell.house.gov, to email me or learn more about my positions on the issues and track my events around the East Bay. You can also sign up for my e-newsletter by pressing 7 on your telephone keypad. And as was mentioned earlier, please join me on Twitter at Rep Swalwell. That's REPSWALWELL. I do write all of my own tweets as well as my Facebook messages, facebook.com/Congressman Eric Swalwell. Thank you again for joining today's call, and I look forward to connecting with you in the East Bay.